with Trevor. I mean, I really think this young man is going to be the next Brian Urlacher.
Compare me to Brian Urlacher, and I haven't even played a whole season at linebacker. Like, that's crazy. You could
Trevor, one of the red shirts.
Major updates for ex-Deion Sanders recruits as Trevor Woods puts out a tweet and an update and letting everybody know, hey, I'm still in the transfer portal, as well as we're going to check in on Nakai Hill-Green. We're also going to check in on a few other transfers out, see how they're doing, see how everything's going on. Just a general update. But first, I think the most important thing to talk about is Mr. Trevor Woods. This is somebody who, when Deion Sanders made his transition into this team and got his Louis in, this was a quote-unquote survivor, somebody who had enough tenacity and heart of the team to stay there and start there and make immediate plays, right? And then you fast forward to this 2024 season where more Louis gets brought in and the linebackers change and he becomes more of a safety. And we're going to walk you through that. We're going to walk you through how he slowly got taken out of the starting and then kind of him leading to redshirting and then everything else. I really hope the best for him, but we're going to see how he's updated so far. So let's hop right into it. And I think the first thing we have to look at is this. This was just tweeted out today. This was just while I was scrolling, I saw it. And I thought about, cooking something up. And then I always thought about like the bigger story that there is. And we're going to kind of tell that. But I have not committed to any school and my recruitment is still open, preferably as a safety. Now, this comes after the end and the close of the winter spring transfer portal and just about a week or two away from the new spring transfer portal that's about to open up April 18th. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but this is like the time. We've heard Jaden Rashada, of course, even though the portal's not open, he's starting to take official visits. So things are starting to kind of open up from the portal side. This is Trevor Woods kind of shining the light and saying, hey, yo, I'm out here. I'm chilling. Yo, y'all come scoop a guy up, you know what I'm saying? So, and it's interesting, as a safety, that's very important because if you know Trevor Woods, he's a linebacker that was transitioning to safety as he was playing in the world of Deion Sanders. So let's walk through this little history there. And then, of course, we're going to check in on Khalil Benson. We're going to check in on Nakai Hill-Green as well as Deion Hayes. But let's take you all the way back, right? Going back to Coach Prime, we're going to kind of walk through these things. So from Coach Prime speaking about, Trevor Woods being a Hall of Famer, to, Trevor Woods speaking on his impact on the team in July and transitioning, and then the speak of, the redshirting and the story there, and then, deeper and longer about the impact that he's had as a player. We're going to start here with Coach Prime.
The change made from safety to linebacker with Trevor, I mean, and I really think this young man is going to be the next Brian Urlacher. I think he's going to make that transition from safety to linebacker and be dominant. Like I just see the want and the fire and desire from our young men, and I can't wait till you get an opportunity to see it as well.
Absolutely thinks he's going to be dominant. Now, if you see the build of Trevor Woods, Brian Urlacher, I mean, look, Deion Sanders is a good recruiter for a reason. He's a great salesman. I'm not sure if I'll report that, but here is early on. This is August 10th, 2023. Like I said, Trevor Woods is someone who stood out as soon as Deion Sanders got the boulder. Here it is.
I want the ones that don't want to quit. They want to be here. They want to work. They want to win. They want to be appreciative of every darn thing they're getting here. That's what it's going to look like. 1, 2, 3. That was a little weak. I want the ones that don't want to quit. They want to be here. They want to work.
And he said, I kind of cut off, but he said, I see Ranzik Bamwell's Trevor Woods, and those are kind of the people who stood out in that meeting at the time. And then going, close to July 29th, close to the season, right? This is when Trevor Woods was still a part of the season. This is kind of what he was speaking of in the transition that he was making for the linebacker position.
Compared you to Brian Urlacher. What do you think about that comparison?
I mean, it was awesome. The next day he came up to me and said, I gave you the spotlight, do something with it. So, I'm grateful for it, and I just got to run with it.
How's it been developing your body? I know you said you were sick in the spring and then kind of didn't have a chance to build up the way you wanted to. Did you get that opportunity now? Do you feel like comfortable in your own skin?
Yeah, I'm way bigger. I'm way stronger right now. I was just telling Mark that I was 198. I remember my first game at Bagger. Right now I was 217 this morning, so I've gotten a lot bigger and a lot stronger.
So you see a concerted effort for him to become a linebacker and try to make an impact there. And, to be honest with you, if we go back to April 2nd, 2024, the truth is that there was a lot more speed, right? There's a lot more speed. There was a lot more athletes at that safety position. So if we go back to this April situation, let's kind of speak on his transition from the linebacker. This is like the beginning in spring.
With switching positions, or was that something you were all in for?
I mean, there was more of like I wasn't sure if I wanted to play linebacker or safety. I was kind of in between. I want to be able to do both, and they've kind of told me I can. But I mean, there's no doubt like going or anything like that.
How much did you learn from those game reps last season?
I mean, I got baptized by fire, so I didn't even last year. I wasn't even in the linebacker room. I was just with the safeties and games. I would go play linebacker. So I'm learning.
And then here is Colorado linebackers coach speaking on the transition for Trevor Woods.
I love Jalen, man. I think he's going to get better. I think he's going to be an asset. He's still competing to get on the field and start. I think what Bentley and Trevor have done is putting them still in the front running. No decisions have been made yet, but I do like what I see. But Jalen is really pushing, and I can't wait to see him on the field. What's that, Thursday, I think, when we get outside and have pads on. Thank you, Coach.
And you can kind of see there that, like, it wasn't just, okay, Trevor Woods is just going to be throwing that linebacker. He's also in the lead, because Trevor Woods was already a bit of a, I would say, emotional leader, but maybe not in the same vocal way that maybe a Shiloh would be, but he is kind of that heart and soul. He's one of those guys that you look for leadership, and less of a you need something out of it. So I think he was a pillar of it. Again, like I keep alluding to, he was a part of the team in that 1-11, if I'm not mistaken. Regardless, he was a part of when Deion got here. He was fighting to be there, and he showed up and made immediate plays at the safety position, and then, obviously this transition kind of happened. So what we're really starting to uncover is the real reason, most likely why he wanted to go ahead and transfer, as he alluded to. I said, remember safety, because it almost felt like he was getting, you come on, you can see these interviews, you can hear it, right? This is not a guy whose idea it was to be a linebacker. This is a guy who's like, oh, well, I might play a little linebacker, and that kind of slowly morphed into them, as a Colorado staff needing a lot more depth at the linebacker position, and seeing Trevor Woods as a guy that can, smart, fast enough, as a guy who knows the defense, who's willing to do that, a real Colorado guy that can kind of mold and be there. And then, when you think about the quote unquote star position, XYZ, that's basically a box safety, you know what I'm saying? So, already have somebody in Trevor Woods who's comfortable with tackling people, just step up a little closer to the line of scrimmage. It's a bit of a no-brainer, but as we know, with the rights of even what's it called? Bentley, and of course Nakai Hill-Green, there was a lot. It ended up having a pretty stout linebacker core when you looked at it for Deion Sanders and the Colorado Buffaloes. But here's Coach Prime on Trevor Woods' role. Again, this is around that same time, if I'm not mistaken. This is October 24th. So this is actually the end of last season. So this is before the springtime. So those last two videos that we heard from Trevor Woods and the linebackers coach was as the transition was being more solidified. And here is what he was saying at linebacker. Again,
Trevor is a player, man. You got to find a way to utilize him to the best of his ability, his strengths, and keep him at the place where he could be a force. He's smart. He's tough. He's physical. He's an asset. So we got to find a way to keep him on the field. And that was one of the ways we found to keep him on the field. And he's smart as I don't know what. So he's not only doing his job, he's helping other guys do theirs by keeping them straight, making sure they know what they're doing.
So, and that's what, what I was really trying to allude to. And I think we're going to go deeper into some of these throwbacks, right, with the July 29th and also the August 1st and things of that nature. And really what I want to stress here is that the reason why this shocked so many, Deion Sanders or Colorado fans, XYZ, is that, again, this is like I say, a heart and soul in a different way, a leader in a different way, someone who's smart and corrective and is known as a bit of a rock and a playmaker. Look, I don't want to just give him a bunch of almost participation type. Oh, he's so good. He's good for morale. He's also a player. Like Deion Sanders said, the physicality. That's why someone playing safety is, okay, I'm okay with him coming into the box. And you saw the linebackers coach, obviously, in the coming springtime, where it's like, oh, no, he is one of the leaders in who's going to be our leaders at Mike backer right now, our main two, not an auxiliary backer, not that star position, right? So he clearly was doing what needed to be done, apparently undersized, like he talked about being sick and things of that nature, right? And I really think this is important because I want to – so many stories in the transfer portal are painted a certain way about certain guys, and what I don't want you to do from this video is to dogpile or get upset at Trevor Woods for him making a decision to get out, or to look at him in any particular way because he had to make a decision that was best for him, when clearly, as we go down this timeline, you can see, okay, let's utilize him as linebacker. Okay, well, now you are a linebacker. Hey, we're going to be a guy. And then Deion Sanders putting pressure's a privilege, but putting the maximum pressure. You compare me to Brian Urlacher, and I haven't even played a whole season at linebacker. Like, that's crazy. You compared me to a gold jacket wearer, one of the greatest to ever play the position, someone who revolutionized the position in the 2000s and 2010s, right? Brian Urlacher is 6'4". Like, can we be honest here? He's 6'4", 2 something, 2 and some change, and Mr. Woods just got to 217. Apparently coming in that summer. So let's be honest with ourselves. And I think Trevor Woods is honest with himself, right? I think he knows that he's a safety that was just playing linebacker for a passionate coach in Deion Sanders. But I don't want it to look at, okay, well, Deion Sanders was forcing him to play linebacker. No, they got more, they got Cameron in, right? They got more talent. They got more speed. And then, of course, they got Shiloh. He ain't getting over his bit of a Shiloh, right? So the way that his position probably needed to evolve was in a different way, in a different manner, right? But let's take you all the way back to August. And this was, some of the praises that Coach Prime had for, some of the Louis baggage and things of that nature.
Jeez. They're a great player. You're going to go pro, man. Understand that. I believe in you. We believe in you. You're a pro. I don't know which way, or if it's linebacker, special teams, what is it, but you're going to go pro. I can't think of nothing you do wrong. Is there anything he does wrong? He hustles, great attitude, great teammate. Came in here with the OBs, maintained himself, never complained, right? That's what he's supposed to do. He is always where he's supposed to be. Has he ever been late? No, sir. Ever talked back? No, sir. Ever been undisciplined? No, sir. Ever dressed out of order? Not getting all in the weight room? That's what we're looking for. That's exactly what we're looking for. Anybody?
So that is the praise that, what I'm saying, that is the type of, and again, like I allude to, you've been on a team, you know what that means, right? Like, coaches are highlighting players and saying, hey, Trevor Woods is that guy for a reason. It's not just because Trevor Woods is that guy, which of course, I believe he does all those things, hard work and XYZ, but it's also, I'm using you as something, right? As a coach using Trevor Woods, quote unquote, right? I'm using you as someone not to just model the game after, right? Not to just say, oh, you're the role model, but deeper than that of, okay, well, I want people to look at you for advice. I want you to look at you as a pillar, as somebody who Coach Prime trusts, not just somebody, oh, man, he's the stickler that does it right. No, he's got heart, he's got passion, and I think you're gonna be a pro. So the respect is there. Don't ever get it twisted. Don't ever also come off on this other side and say, oh, well, they did him wrong. I mean, it seemed like they kept putting him in positions where I'm trying to get you on the field. I'm trying to find a place that makes the most sense that also puts our team in the best position. So I think it's kind of time. And we also have these two interviews that go a little more at length, so we can do that as well to get more insight. But really what I talk about is the transition from, this what I'm talking about, this is what we're speaking on, and then the eventual him entering the transfer portal. So here is, because this is a twofold question, right? This is a twofold question. This is when it starts, August 20th, right? When things kind of start shaking up, right? And here it is.
Levante Bentley, Trevor Woods, is that kind of your starting package as the game day is close ahead?
Early in the season, I thought it would be, and now Nikai and Jeremiah Brown are making a really big push, and so we've been mixing these guys up. And I always talk about competition keeping them up at night, but now they're keeping me up at night because I'm trying to think who's going to be that guy for me. And they've been playing really well, and so I'm excited to see who's going to come out on top. But I feel good with any four of those guys going in.
Absolutely. And this is a video that we actually talked about when we were talking about Nikhil Green. We made a video on him. I'll go check that out if you want to check that out. And him going to Alabama, right, and kind of walking through the timeline of how things happened. But that is an extremely important crossroads for Trevor Woods, right? Who, remember, at this time, September 28th, we're in the season, 3 weeks in. I remember when this happened, this was a big deal, and of course we're going to see the response from him. But Jeremiah Brown, who enters the transfer portal, who entered the portal, who redshirted, first off, because he wasn't in the portal yet, but redshirted with the intention to enter the transfer portal and then hop back out. And then, of course, Trevor Woods, who, again, the thought process was, oh, okay, he's just going to redshirt because he had just lost his position. Remember that. Comes in, is the heart and soul, is told by Coach Prime, you're going to be Brian Urlacher, you're a pro, you do everything right, and your position gets changed. And then that position that you get changed for, that you were starting at, then you also get almost usurped from that position by transfer portal players in Nikhil Green, right? And Jeremiah Brown is from Jackson State, so it's a little different. But, that's still, but Bentley, you feel me? Like, they're getting usurped like that. So I think it's an interesting conversation to be had, to see where the writing was on the wall, where, you're about to start the season and he goes from, I lost my position, to now I lost even being a starter. So at September 28th, he makes a decision to.
How you doing? Brian Howell, Daily Camera. Two quick questions for you. First off, just personnel-wise, Trevor Woods, Deion Hayes, Khalil Benson. Can you talk about their absences?
Khalil was hurt. Trevor wanted the red shirt. Jeremiah wanted the red shirt. Who else you say?
Deion Hayes.
Deion Hayes was hurt. If you hurt and you don't practice, I'm not putting you on the plane. That's my rules. I'm just old school. I'm sorry. Why would I take that?
Right.
That situation. I don't do that.
Right. I was just curious where they were. So with that, you had several guys step up. And Taj McCoy, huge game tonight.
Taj McCoy could play, man.
Yeah.
Don't look at him being a redshirt freshman. The kid can play. The kid was.
And there you go. And that was I wouldn't say beginning of the end, but I think a really good indication of how things were going. And it's interesting that he actually talked about Deion Hayes, because that is the other player, not necessarily that we're going to talk about at length, but that's another transfer out that we have to talk about. So there's Deion Hayes, who I believe ended up entering the transfer portal at the end of the season, not at the beginning. Y'all correct me there. Nikhil Green, which was a shock, his transfer portal entrance for a lot of people who, I kind of talked about there. Khalil Benson, who is in Indiana, and also shout out to Hank Zelankas, interior offensive line that's going to Rutgers as well. Congratulations to all these young gentlemen that are finding a new place. Cordell Russell as well, Rayon Buell, Walter Taylor III, and John Chaney. That's great to see. And just to complete the full update here, you have, Kurt Signetti speaking on Khalil Benson, who was somebody that obviously entered the transfer portal and got a lot of mixed reviews from Colorado fans. If you kind of check social media, I don't think he's the biggest, I don't think Colorado's are the biggest fans of Khalil Benson, I should say. So here's a full quote from Kurt Signetti about E.J. Williams Jr., who entered the transfer portal in October and later decided to return to Indiana. Signetti's comments on Khalil Benson and Louis Moore returning to IU also included here too. So, he kind of speaks on just the guys returning and understand, the importance of them. And then you have Nikhil Green, who is not only, getting good reps at linebacker. From what I've been hearing, he's kind of on that cusp of being one of those starters as well too, that could either be a, by committee type position there, or just outright start. And then finally, you have a Deion Hayes, who, was coming out of Pitt, if I'm not mistaken there, who transferred to Texas A&M. I mean, and I think the end of this conversation, as we kind of put rest to, the Trevor Woods conversation. And in that conversation, what I want to say there to end it is that, again, we have to look at it at full scope. I think this is one of those times where the transfer portal makes sense. He did what he needed to do for this team. He stuck out for a lot of stuff. He changed positions, and it got to the point where he does need to be able to look at himself after 3 years, giving himself to Colorado. Actually, 3 or 4 years. I'm not too exact on those numbers, but needed to be able to be like, hey, I got to find a place that not only suits me, but suits my position, right? Suits my needs. And then when you talk about Deion Hayes, you talk about Nakai Hill-Green at Alabama, you talk about Khalil Benson at Indiana, you talk about these are the players that are coming through Colorado. These are the players that had success with Deion Sanders, and they're finding success at bigger, quote unquote, better, quote unquote, schools and conferences and leagues. It only bolsters and doubles down on the things that Deion Sanders has been saying and preaching. You know, I think he knows what he's doing recruitment wise. If his recruits are about to start for the University of Alabama, potentially for Texas A&M, potentially for Indiana, and we hope and wish, of course, for the best for Mr. Trevor Woods. Hope everything kind of settles out there. He's kind of putting that message out there that he's still open, so we'll see if he gets scooped up, man. But I appreciate y'all watching these videos. Like it if you like it, dislike it if you don't like it, subscribe if you enjoy college football content, transfer portal content, NIL. We do plenty of Deion Sanders stuff. You know that. Comment down below if there's any type of content you want to see, man. You know you're great. Continue to be great, man. We'll see you next time, baby.